You've been told that a narcissist's greatest enemy is the truth. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not quite right. The single most dangerous, most terrifying person on the planet to a narcissist is the empath they thought they had broken, who finally looks them in the eye and feels nothing. We've been doing a deep dive into these toxic personalities, talking about the classic, the covert, the malignant narcissist. But today we're not talking about them. We're talking about their kryptonite. We're talking about the person who can dismantle their entire world without lifting a finger. I'm focusing on this because I've heard from so many of you, thousands of you, who feel trapped, drained, and confused. This episode is about giving you the playbook to take your power back. Look, let's be clear. A narcissist needs supply like a car needs gasoline. That supply is your attention, your emotion, your anger, your love, your tears. They don't care what it is as long as it's about them. They need to be the center of attention. They feed off of it. Without it, they're nothing. And who do they find? They find the givers. The empaths, the people who are wired to care, to fix, to heal. You see a wounded person and you want to help. That's your nature. You're the person who stops to help someone change a tire on the side of the road. You're the one who always has tissues in your purse for someone who's crying. You're the one who gives people the benefit of the doubt, even when they probably don't deserve it. It's a perfect setup, right? The person who needs to be fixed finds the person who needs to fix. But it's a one-way street. They will suck you dry and then complain that you're empty. They'll drain every ounce of compassion, every bit of understanding, every drop of love you have to give, and then they'll look at you and say, "What's wrong with you? Why are you so tired all the time?" Think about it. They target empaths for a reason. It's not random. You have something they want. You have genuine emotions. You have the ability to feel real love, real compassion, real connection, and they can't do that. So they need to steal it from you. They need to feed off your emotional reactions because they can't generate their own authentic feelings. They study you. They watch how you respond to kindness, to pain, to love. And then they use that information against you. They become the perfect mirror, reflecting back exactly what you want to see. They love bomb you with the intensity of 1,000 suns, making you feel like you're the most special person who ever lived. And you think, finally, someone who gets me, someone who sees me for who I really am. But that's the trap, because what you're falling in love with isn't them. It's yourself reflected back to you. They're showing you a version of yourself that you've always wanted to see. And once you're hooked, once you're emotionally invested, that's when the real game begins. They start to withdraw that reflection. Slowly at first. The compliments become fewer, the attention becomes conditional. The love becomes something you have to earn, and the bar keeps getting higher. You start working harder to get back to that feeling you had in the beginning. You start questioning yourself. What did I do wrong? How can I fix this? How can I be better? And that's exactly where they want you, scrambling, desperate, willing to do anything to get back to that initial high. You become addicted to their approval because they've systematically removed your ability to approve of yourself. Now, I want this to be a conversation. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt more like a battery than a partner? Where you felt like your only purpose was to power someone else's life while yours slowly drained away? Let me have your comments on that, because I guarantee you are not alone in this. You felt like everything you did was never enough. You gave and gave and gave, and it was like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much you poured in, it was never full. And somehow, it became your fault that the bucket was empty. You started to lose yourself. You stopped doing the things you love. You stopped seeing the friends they didn't approve of. You stopped pursuing your dreams because they needed you to be available for theirs. You became a supporting character in your own life story. And here's the thing that makes this so insidious. They convinced you that this was love. They convinced you that sacrifice meant devotion. They convinced you that if you really loved them, you'd understand why they needed so much from you. They turned your greatest strength, your ability to love unconditionally, into your greatest weakness. But there comes a moment when something shifts. Maybe it's the 100th time they've blamed you for their bad mood. Maybe it's when you realize you haven't laughed, really laughed, in months. Maybe it's when you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back at you. That's when the empath wakes up. And that awakening is the most dangerous thing that can happen to a narcissist, because an awakened empath isn't angry. Anger is still supply. An awakened empath is something much more terrifying to a narcissist. They're indifferent. So what happens when that battery gets unplugged? What happens when the empath is truly, and I mean truly, done? It's not a fight, it's a sudden, deafening silence. And that silence is what we're going to break down next. You might be asking yourself, why me? Why do I always attract these people? It's not because you're weak. In fact, it's the opposite. It's your strength they want to drain. You have something they desperately need and can never truly possess: authentic emotional depth. You're like a walking emotional buffet to them, and they're starving. Let's talk about the initial dance. It's a well-rehearsed play, and they know every single line. They've performed this show countless times before, and they've perfected their performance. You think you're getting to know someone new, but what you're really experiencing is a carefully crafted manipulation designed to hook you completely. This isn't random. This isn't accidental. This is calculated psychological warfare disguised as romance or friendship, and it happens in 3 very predictable acts. They come in like a hurricane. They're everything you've ever wanted. They mirror you, they flatter you, they put you on a pedestal. You think, oh my God, I cannot believe I found this person. But it's an act. It's all an act. They study you like your final exam they need to ace. They pay attention to what makes you light up, what makes you feel valued, what you've been missing in your life. And then they become that missing piece. If you mention you love old movies, suddenly they're a classic film buff. If you talk about feeling unappreciated at work, they shower you with praise about how brilliant and undervalued you are. They text you constantly. They want to see you every day. They tell you they've never felt this way before. They make you feel like you're the most fascinating person they've ever met. The intensity is intoxicating. You feel like you're in a movie, like you've found your soulmate, like the universe is finally aligned to bring you exactly what you needed. But here's what's really happening. They're not falling in love with you. They're studying you. They're downloading your emotional blueprint so they can use it against you later. Every vulnerability you share, every insecurity you reveal, every dream you express, it all gets filed away for future use. Then come the little digs, the passive-aggressive comments. They start chipping away at your confidence. They start gaslighting you. You start thinking, is it me? Am I too sensitive? They want you doubting your own damn name. The shift is subtle at first. The constant texting slows down. The compliments become backhanded. You look great in that dress. It really hides your problem areas. You're so funny when you're not trying too hard. I love how you don't care what people think about your hair. Wait, what? When did they start noticing problem areas? When did your sense of humor become something you had to work at? When did your hair become something people had opinions about? These thoughts creep in slowly, like water through a crack in the foundation. They start comparing you to other people. Their ex was more confident. Their coworker is more successful. Their friend is more fun. Suddenly, you're not enough. You're not the amazing person they made you believe you were. You're just ordinary. And you start working harder to get back to that pedestal they put you on. They become unpredictable. One day they're loving and attentive. The next day they're cold and distant. You start walking on eggshells, trying to figure out what you did wrong. You start changing your behavior to avoid triggering their moods. You become a different person, and you don't even realize it's happening. And once they've got you where they want you, insecure and confused, they might discard you. They throw you away like yesterday's trash. But it's often a test because they know you'll be back. The discard can be brutal. They might disappear completely. They might start openly seeing someone else. They might tell you they need space, that you're too needy, that you're suffocating them. The same person who couldn't go an hour without talking to you now acts like you're a burden. But here's the thing about the discard, it's not usually permanent. It's a power move. They want to see if you'll chase them. They want to see if you'll beg them to come back. They want to see just how much control they have over you. And often you do chase them, because by this point, you're trauma bonded. You're addicted to the highs and lows. You're convinced that if you can just get back to Act 1, everything will be perfect again. You blame yourself for the problems. You promise to be better, to be less needy, to be more understanding. Ask yourself these questions. Did the relationship move incredibly fast at the beginning? Did they tell you they loved you within weeks of meeting you? Did they want to move in together or talk about marriage before you'd even had a real fight? Do you find yourself constantly apologizing for things you didn't even do? Are you always the one trying to fix things when there's tension? Do you feel like you're always defending yourself, always explaining your actions, always trying to prove you're not the problem? Do you feel worse about yourself when you're around this person than you did before you met them? That's the acid test right there. A healthy relationship should make you feel better about yourself, not worse. You should feel more confident, more secure, more loved, not less. This cycle of idealize, devalue, discard is the engine of their control. It's designed to keep you off balance, always guessing, always trying to earn back what you thought you had. It's psychological manipulation at its finest. And it works because it targets your deepest human needs for love and acceptance. But what we're talking about today is the moment the empath gets off the merry-go-round. That's when the real fireworks start. Now listen to me. Being done isn't just being angry. Anger is still supply. Being done is a state of being. It's a quiet, calm, and irreversible shift in your soul. It's when you stop playing the game. There's a difference between being fed up and being done. Fed up is emotional. Fed up is reactive. Fed up still gives them something to work with. But done is different. Done is when you look at their drama and feel absolutely nothing. Done is when their tears don't move you. Done is when their rage doesn't scare you. Done is when you realize you're watching a performance and you're simply not interested in being an audience anymore. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's not like a light switch. It's more like a sunrise, gradual, then suddenly everything is illuminated. And once you see clearly, you can't unsee it. Emotional numbness, their crocodile tears and their rages. You see them for what they are, a performance, and you're just not an interested audience anymore. You don't feel it. You don't feel it. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen them cry before, and it used to tear your heart out. You'd rush to comfort them, to fix whatever was wrong, to make them feel better. But now you watch them cry and you think, here we go again. You see the timing of it, how it always happens right when you're about to address something they did wrong. You see the calculation behind it, how they can turn it on and off like a faucet. Their rage used to terrify you. You'd do anything to avoid setting them off. You'd change your behavior, your plans, your entire personality to keep the peace. But now their rage looks different. It looks like what it is, a toddler having a tantrum because they're not getting their way. And you don't negotiate with toddlers. The end of justification, you stop explaining yourself. You stop defending your reality. You need to stop explaining yourself. You realize you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. This is huge. For years, you've been over-explaining everything. Why you need to see your friends. Why you can't drop everything to attend to their crisis. Why you deserve basic respect. Why you have a right to your own feelings. You've been living like you need permission to exist as yourself. But something clicks. You realize that healthy people don't require you to justify your basic human needs. Healthy people don't demand explanations for why you want to be treated with dignity. Healthy people don't make you feel guilty for having boundaries. You stop saying, I'm sorry, but you stop prefacing your needs with apologies. You stop explaining why you can't do something unreasonable. No becomes a complete sentence. And that shift in your communication signals something profound you've remembered that you matter to. Seeing the pattern, it's like you've been watching a movie in a language you don't understand, and suddenly you get subtitles, you see the manipulation in real time. The gaslighting, the victim playing the word salad, it's all crystal clear. You start predicting their moves. When they love bomb you, you know the devaluation is coming. When they play victim, you know they're about to ask for something. When they start a fight about nothing, you know they're trying to distract you from something they did. The word salad, those circular conversations that go nowhere, where they twist your words and confuse the issue until you forget what you were even talking about. You see it for what it is. It's not communication. It's confusion tactics. They're not trying to understand you or resolve anything. They're trying to exhaust you into submission. You see how they rewrite history, how they remember fights completely differently than you do, how they claim they never said things you distinctly remember them saying, how they make you question your own memory, your own experience, your own reality. Radical acceptance, this is the big one. You accept you cannot change them. You ain't going to change these people, and it's not your job to. That's a way above your pay grade kind of problem. This might be the hardest part of the awakening. Because if you're an empath, you've probably spent years believing that love could heal them, that patience could fix them, that understanding could reach them, that if you just tried hard enough, cared enough, sacrificed enough, you could help them become the person you saw glimpses of in the beginning. But you can't. You can't love someone into being healthy. You can't care someone into being capable of caring back. You can't sacrifice yourself into making someone else whole. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. You accept that their problems are not your problems to solve. Their childhood trauma is not your responsibility to heal. Their emotional instability is not your crisis to manage. Their inability to love is not your failure to be lovable. You accept that they showed you who they are, and you finally believe them. Not who they could be, not who they promised to be, not who they were for 5 minutes when they wanted something, who they actually are consistently when the mask comes off. I've worked with people in therapy groups, good people who spent years trying to get through to an abusive partner. The breakthrough never came from the abuser changing. It came the day the victim said, "I'm not doing this anymore." Not with a scream, but with a whisper. And that whisper was louder than any fight they'd ever had, because that whisper came from a place of truth, a place of clarity, a place of self-respect that had been buried but not destroyed. And once you find that place, once you speak from that place, everything changes. So the empath has woken up. They're no longer a participant, they're an observer. Now let's talk about why this new stance makes them so incredibly dangerous to the narcissist's fragile ego. The awakened empath doesn't fight with swords and shields. Their power is much more subtle and much more devastating to a narcissist. See, a narcissist is prepared for war. They're ready for screaming matches, for tears, for drama. They thrive on conflict because conflict is still engagement. Conflict is still supply. But what they're not prepared for is indifference. What they can't handle is irrelevance. What destroys them is being treated like they don't matter. This is their worst nightmare. You become as boring as a gray rock. They yell, you say, "Okay." They cry, you say, "I see." You give them zero emotional reaction. A narcissist without an emotional reaction is a vampire in the sunlight. They wither. Think about it. Their whole identity is built around being the center of attention. They need to be the most important person in the room. They need to be the star of every show. But when you become a gray rock, you're not giving them a stage to perform on. You're not giving them an audience to manipulate. When they start their usual drama, instead of getting pulled in, you respond with the emotional equivalent of watching paint dry. That's interesting. I hear you. You're not agreeing with them. You're not disagreeing with them. You're not engaging with them. You're just there, existing, breathing, being incredibly, devastatingly boring. They need you to be the bad guy or the good guy. They can't handle you being nothing to them. Because if you're nothing to them, then what does that make them? If they can't get a rise out of you, if they can't make you dance to their tune, if they can't control your emotions, then they have no power over you. And here's the beautiful part: the less you react, the more ridiculous they look. Their tantrums become more obvious. Their manipulations become more transparent. Their desperation becomes more pathetic. They start looking like exactly what they are: a person having a complete meltdown because they can't control another human being. Before, your boundaries were suggestions. Now they are non-negotiable laws. No, becomes a full sentence. You stop answering the 2 a.m. calls. You stop letting them borrow money. You set boundaries and you enforce them without guilt. Remember when you used to explain your boundaries. I can't lend you money right now because I'm trying to save for my car payment. And last time you borrowed money, it took you 6 months to pay me back, and I really need to be more careful with my finances. That's not a boundary, that's a negotiation. That's giving them ammunition to argue with you. Now it's different. I'm not lending you money. Period. End of sentence. They ask why. Because I'm not. They tell you about their emergency. I understand that's difficult for you. They guilt you about being a bad friend. I'm sorry you feel that way. They threaten to end the relationship. That's your choice to make. You stop answering phone calls at inappropriate times. You stop dropping everything because they have a crisis. You stop canceling your plans because they suddenly need you. You stop being available 24/7 for their emotional emergencies that somehow always seem to happen when you're busy living your own life. They will test these boundaries. They will push and prod. They'll try to find the crack in your armor. They'll escalate their behavior to see if they can get the old you back. But when they hit that wall every single time, they realize the game has changed. The testing phase is crucial. They'll show up unannounced to see if you'll let them in. They'll create fake emergencies to see if you'll break your own rules. They'll use mutual friends to try to get information about you. They'll try every trick in the book to see if your boundaries are real or just a phase. But your boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection. They're not about hurting them, they're about preserving yourself. You're not being mean, you're being healthy. You're not being selfish, you're being responsible for your own well-being. The empath knows all their secrets they've seen behind the mask. The narcissist lives in constant fear that the empath will expose them for who they really are, not with a smear campaign, but just by living their truth. You've been there for their 3 a.m. breakdowns. You've seen them in their underwear having a meltdown because the restaurant got their order wrong. You've watched them scream at customer service representatives. You've seen them lie to their family. You've witnessed their cruelty to people who can't fight back. You know about their financial problems they hide from everyone else. You know about their substance abuse. You know about their other relationships. You know about their lies, their manipulations, their schemes. You've seen the real person behind the carefully crafted public image, and they know that you know. They're terrified that you'll tell people who they really are, not because you're vindictive, but because you're authentic. You don't lie to cover for them anymore. You don't make excuses for their behavior. You don't help them maintain their facade. When you leave and you are happy, healthy, and successful, your life becomes the evidence that they were the problem. You don't have to say a word. Your peace is your testimony. This is the most powerful weapon of all. When people see you thriving without them, when they see you laughing again, when they see you living your best life, it becomes obvious what the real dynamic was. You don't have to bad-mouth them. You don't have to tell everyone what they did to you. Your happiness tells the story. They built their identity around being necessary to you. They convinced you that you couldn't survive without them. They made you believe that you were the problem, that you were the difficult one, that you were the one who needed fixing. But when you're out there living your life, pursuing your dreams, maintaining healthy relationships, being genuinely happy, it becomes clear that you were never the problem. You were the solution they were trying to suppress. Your silence is more damaging than any words you could speak. Your success is more devastating than any revenge you could plot. Your peace is more powerful than any anger you could express. When an empath starts using these tools, the narcissist doesn't just walk away.
Oh, no.
They panic, and that panic leads to something we call an extinction burst. So you've become a gray rock. You've built your walls. The narcissist is starving. What do? They don't give up. They double down. They throw every single trick in the book at you turned up to 11. This is what psychologists call an extinction burst. It's like when a vending machine stops working and you start hitting it harder and harder, trying every button, shaking it, doing everything you can to get it to give you what you want. The narcissist is doing the same thing to you. They're hitting every button they can find, trying to get you to react, to engage, to give them that supply they're so desperately craving. And let me tell you, this phase can be intense. This is when they pull out all the stops. This is when they become the most dangerous, the most unpredictable, the most manipulative. Because they're not just losing you, they're losing their primary source of validation, control, and identity. They try to suck you back in. Suddenly they're the person you first met. Apologies, gifts, promises to change. I've learned my lesson. It's a lie.
It's bait.
Don't take it. Remember that charming person who swept you off your feet? They're back. The flowers start arriving. The sweet text messages begin again. They want to take you to that restaurant you mentioned months ago. They remember your favorite coffee order. They're suddenly interested in your hobbies again. They'll tell you they've been thinking about what you said. They'll claim they've been in therapy. They'll say they've realized how much they hurt you and they want to make it right. They'll promise that things will be different this time. They'll swear they've changed. But here's the thing, real change takes time. Real change requires consistent effort over months and years. Real change involves accountability, therapy, and genuine self-reflection. What they're offering you is not change. It's a performance designed to get you back under their control. They know exactly what buttons to push because they've been studying you for years. They know what makes you feel loved. They know what makes you feel special. They know what you've been missing since they started the devaluation phase, and they'll give you just enough of it to remind you of what you thought you had. This is the most dangerous phase for the empath because it plays directly into your deepest desire, the hope that they can become the person you believed they were. You want to believe they've changed. You want to believe your love was enough to fix them. You want to believe that all the pain was worth it if they finally get it. But they haven't changed. They're just scared. They're desperate. Then desperate people will say anything to regain control. If the hoovering doesn't work, they pivot. They'll go to your friends, your family, your boss. They'll tell everyone that you are the crazy one, the abuser. They need to control the narrative because they've lost control of you. This is where it gets really ugly. They'll start telling people you're mentally unstable. They'll claim you were the abusive one in the relationship. They'll say you're obsessed with them, that you won't leave them alone. They'll paint themselves as the victim and you as the villain. They'll take every vulnerability you shared with them and weaponize it. Remember when you told them about your struggles with anxiety? Now you're crazy and unstable. Remember when you told them about your difficult childhood? Now you're damaged and impossible to love. Remember when you told them about your fears and insecurities? Now those are evidence of your character flaws. They'll reach out to your mutual friends with crocodile tears, telling them how worried they are about you. They'll contact your family members, expressing concern about your mental health. They'll even contact your coworkers or your boss, claiming they're just worried about your well-being. The goal is to isolate you, to make you question whether anyone will believe you, to make you feel like you're the problem, to get other people to pressure you into going back to them, or at least to stop supporting you. They'll tell everyone how much they miss you, how you abandoned them in their time of need. They will try to get other people, what we call flying monkeys, to do their dirty work and guilt trip you. Suddenly, they're the wounded party. They're the one who's suffering. They're the one who's been wronged. They'll tell people you left them when they needed you most. They'll claim they're devastated that they don't understand what they did wrong, that they just want to make things right. They'll recruit mutual friends to be their messengers. These flying monkeys will approach you with messages like, they really love you, or they're really struggling without you, or maybe you should give them another chance. These people genuinely believe they're helping because they've only heard one side of the story. The narcissist will share just enough truth to make their lies believable. They'll admit to some minor mistakes while painting themselves as someone who's learned from their errors. They'll acknowledge that the relationship had problems but frame it as mutual responsibility. They'll present themselves as the reasonable one who's willing to work things out. They might even threaten self-harm or suicide to get you back. They'll claim they can't live without you, that you're the only good thing in their life, that they'll do something drastic if you don't come back. This is emotional terrorism, and it's designed to make you feel responsible for their well-being. When all else fails, the mask comes off completely. You'll see the pure, unfiltered narcissistic rage. They will rage at you like you would not believe. This is their last-ditch effort to scare you back into submission. This is when they stop pretending to be reasonable. This is when they stop trying to manipulate you with kindness. This is when the real person emerges, and it's terrifying. The rage is unlike anything you've experienced because it's not normal human anger. It's the fury of someone whose entire identity is being threatened. They'll tell you exactly what they think of you. They'll say things designed to destroy your self-esteem. They'll threaten to ruin your reputation, your career, your relationships. They'll tell you that no one will ever love you, that you're worthless, that you're making the biggest mistake of your life. They might show up at your workplace, your home, places you frequent. They might follow you, call you obsessively, send you hundreds of messages. They might threaten legal action, threaten to hurt themselves, threaten to hurt you. The intensity of their desperation is frightening. But here's the kicker. The awakened empath sees all of this for what it is, a desperate tantrum. It's not scary anymore, it's just predictable. And your lack of reaction is the final nail in the coffin. You've taken their power, and they know it. You don't engage with the hoovering. You don't defend yourself against the smear campaign. You don't take responsibility for their threats of self-harm. You don't react to their rage. You just exist away from them, living your life. And that indifference is the most powerful response of all. Surviving the extinction burst is the final exam. Once you pass it, you are truly free. But freedom comes with a responsibility to yourself. And that's healing. All right? You've done the hard part. You've walked away. Now let's talk about you, because this part is all about you. You need to give yourself permission to not feel badly. I know this sounds simple, but it's not. You've been programmed to feel guilty about everything. You've been trained to believe that putting yourself first is selfish. You've been conditioned to think that your needs don't matter as much as everyone else's. But that programming ends now. You've just survived psychological warfare. You've just escaped from someone who was systematically trying to destroy your sense of self. You've just broken free from a person who was feeding off your soul. And now you need to treat yourself with the same compassion you would show a friend who had been through hell. You've got to be your own best friend. Talk to yourself the way you'd talk to a friend you love who has been through hell. Be kind. Be patient. Think about it. If your best friend came to you and said, I just got out of an abusive relationship. I feel broken and confused, and I don't know who I am anymore. What would you say to them? You'd be gentle. You'd be understanding. You'd tell them it's going to take time to heal. You'd remind them of their strength and their worth. Now I want you to have that same conversation with yourself. Look in the mirror and talk to yourself like you would talk to that friend. You've been through something terrible, but you survived. You're stronger than you know. You're going to get through this. You deserve love and respect and kindness. Stop the negative self-talk. Stop blaming yourself for what happened. Stop telling yourself you should have known better. You should have left sooner. You should have been smarter. You did the best you could with the information you had at the time. That's all any of us can do. Start celebrating small victories. You made it through a day without thinking about them. You set a boundary with someone and stuck to it. You did something nice for yourself. You laughed at something funny. These might seem like tiny things, but they're evidence that you're healing. You need to rediscover who you are outside of that relationship. You've been so focused on managing their emotions, avoiding their triggers, and trying to make them happy that you've forgotten what makes you happy. What did you love to do before you met them? What dreams did you put on hold? What parts of yourself did you suppress to keep the peace? The narcissist isolated you for a reason. Rebuild those bridges. Talk to the friends and family you were cut off from. You need your team. I know this is hard. You're embarrassed. You're ashamed. You feel stupid for letting it happen. You think people are going to judge you or say, "I told you so." But here's the truth: the people who love you have been waiting for you to come back. They've been worried about you. They've been hoping you'd reach out. Yes, some relationships might be damaged. Some people might have been hurt by your absence. But real friends, real family, they understand that you were in a difficult situation. They know that isolation is a tactic abusers use. They've probably been hoping for the chance to support you. Start with one person, the safest person, the one you know will be glad to hear from you. Send a text, make a call, say something like, "I know it's been a while, but I'd really like to talk. I've been in a difficult situation and I'm trying to rebuild my life." You don't have to tell everyone everything right away. You don't have to justify where you've been or explain every detail of what happened. You just need to start reconnecting with the world outside of that toxic bubble you've been living in. Be patient with yourself and with others. It's going to take time to rebuild trust. It's going to take time to learn how to have normal conversations again. It's going to take time to remember how to be social without walking on eggshells. Listen to me on this. Do not expect an apology. You're not going to get one. They're not capable of it because in their mind, they did nothing wrong. Your closure comes from you walking away, not from them. This is one of the hardest parts of recovery. You want them to acknowledge what they did to you. You want them to admit they were wrong. You want them to apologize and mean it. You want them to understand how much they hurt you. But that's not going to happen. They can't give you what they don't have. They can't feel genuine remorse because they don't have the emotional capacity for it. They can't apologize sincerely because they don't actually believe they did anything wrong. In their mind, you're the one who left. You're the one who gave up. You're the one who couldn't handle their honesty or their intensity. Even if they do apologize, it won't be real, it'll be strategic. It'll be designed to get you back or to make themselves look better. It won't heal you. It won't give you the closure you're looking for. Your closure comes from accepting that they are who they are. Your closure comes from understanding that their inability to love you properly was about them, not you. Your closure comes from choosing to stop waiting for them to validate your experience. Your intuition was screaming at you for years. You were just trained to ignore it. Start listening to that little voice again. It knows what it's talking about. Remember all those times you had a feeling something was off? All those times you sensed they were lying? All those times you felt uncomfortable but talked yourself out of it? Your gut was right. Your intuition was trying to protect you, but you were taught to doubt yourself. They convinced you that you were too sensitive, too suspicious, too paranoid. They made you feel guilty for questioning them. They trained you to ignore your instincts and trust their version of reality instead. But your intuition is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Start with small things. How do you feel when you're around certain people? What does your body tell you when someone asks you for a favor? What's your gut reaction when someone tells you something that doesn't quite add up? It's like when we were in psych class, every disorder we studied, we thought we had it. You're going to be hyper aware of red flags for a while, and that's okay. You're just recalibrating your BS detector. Your intuition is going to be extra sensitive for a while. You might see red flags where there aren't any. You might be suspicious of people who are actually trustworthy. That's normal. It's your mind's way of protecting you while you heal. But don't let this hypervigilance stop you from connecting with people. Just go slow. Trust your gut, but also give yourself permission to take time to really get to know someone before you make judgments about them. Healing is not a race. It's a journey, and it leads to the ultimate victory, which isn't about the narcissist at all. So let's do a quick summary. We've talked about the toxic dance, the moment the empath wakes up, the power of indifference, and the narcissist's desperate attempts to regain control. We've laid out the entire playbook. We started with that shocking truth. The most dangerous person to a narcissist is an empath who looks them in the eye and feels nothing. We walked through how that toxic connection forms, how the narcissist targets the empath's greatest strength and turns it into their vulnerability. We saw how the love bombing, devaluation, and discard cycle works to keep empaths trapped in an endless loop of hope and despair. But then we talked about the awakening, that moment when Doan becomes a destination, not just a feeling, when the empath stops playing the game, when they develop emotional numbness to the narcissist's performances, when they stop justifying their existence, when they see the patterns clearly, and when they radically accept that they cannot change this person. We explored the empath's new power, the gray rock method, boundaries of steel, and the devastating silence of simply living well. We saw how these tools completely dismantle the narcissist's control system. And we watched what happens when they panic, the extinction burst with all its desperate hoovering, smear campaigns, victim playing, and final rage. Then we focused on the healing journey, because surviving is just the beginning. Recovery means rebuilding your relationship with yourself, reconnecting with your support system, accepting that closure comes from within, and learning to trust your instincts again. The most dangerous person to a narcissist is an empath who is truly done, because that empath represents the one thing the narcissist can never have: authentic self-worth and inner peace. Your happiness is their defeat, your success is their failure, your peace is their torment. They don't have to be in your life for you to win. In fact, you win by making sure they aren't. Think about what that means. Everything they tried to convince you was impossible, that you couldn't be happy without them, that you couldn't survive on your own, that you were too damaged for anyone else to love. Your very existence proves them wrong. You don't have to argue with them. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to live. Your joy is a testimony to their lies. Your success is evidence of their sabotage. Your healthy relationships prove their manipulation. Your peace demonstrates their chaos. Your growth shows their attempts to keep you small. Your confidence reveals their efforts to destroy your self-esteem. And here's the beautiful irony: by trying to break you, they actually made you stronger. By trying to control you, they taught you about boundaries. By trying to isolate you, they showed you who your real friends are. By trying to make you doubt yourself, they forced you to develop unshakable self-trust. You survived something that was designed to destroy you. You escaped from someone whose entire existence was dedicated to consuming yours. You broke free from a prison that was built specifically to hold you. That's not luck. That's not accident. That's strength. That's courage. That's victory. The narcissist will move on to their next victim, but you've become immune to their type. You've developed antibodies against manipulation. You can spot the red flags from a mile away. You've learned to trust your gut, set boundaries, and value yourself. You've become dangerous to their entire species. I'm doing this because I really want to have an impact on all of you and all of your lives. If you can understand why people do what they do, you have an incredible edge in life. And I want you to have that power. Understanding narcissistic behavior isn't just about protecting yourself from abusers. It's about understanding human psychology. It's about recognizing manipulation in all its forms. It's about developing emotional intelligence and interpersonal skills that will serve you in every relationship, every workplace, every social situation. When you understand that some people are driven by an insatiable need for supply, you stop taking their behavior personally. When you recognize love bombing, you don't fall for it. When you see gaslighting, you don't question your reality. When you witness a smear campaign, you don't internalize the lies. This knowledge makes you powerful. It makes you confident. It makes you free. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning. The person you're becoming, the person who can look at manipulation and feel nothing, who can set boundaries without guilt, who can trust their instincts without doubt, that person is going to live a life the narcissist can never even imagine. You're going to have authentic relationships. You're going to pursue your dreams. You're going to help other people who are where you once were. You're going to be happy, really genuinely happy. And that happiness is the ultimate victory. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, do so now so you don't miss anything. Share this with one person you think needs to hear it. Let me have your comments. Let me have your questions. I appreciate you spending this time with me.